Here we go. Here we go.
And we're live. Episode 3 of The Oddest Couple. Truly the oddest couple on the block. I'm Felix Levine with my, I almost said partner in crime. I can't
Father.
say no, but, father, but I can't say partner in crime because then the FBI might be watching us. That's a tough one.
If they are high.
Episode 3 of The Oddest Couple. If you haven't watched episodes 1 and 2, I think they're very good, personally.
Yeah, I'll tell you the truth, because it's just us talking natural.
Yeah. Episodes 1 and 2, if you missed them, watch them here on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, like, all that good stuff. You know,
I'm always curious of comments.
Yeah,
from the normal people. Because you always got the whack jobs.
Write us on Instagram. We're gonna be posting short clips, short YouTube shorts, reels on Instagram, TikTok clips, a lot of different content that we didn't do when we were doing our show a couple years ago. For people who remember us from that show, we're back. For people who are just finding out about us now, welcome to the John and Felix experience. So we're going to be posting everything, all the video versions on YouTube, the shorts, all the short form content everywhere. You're going to be seeing a lot of us. You'll get really annoyed by the end of it. If you're listening to this right now, make sure that you subscribe on whether it's Spotify, Apple, etc. Subscribe, like, review, all that good stuff. Follow this man on Instagram at John Alite. For me, on Instagram at Felix.Levine. Anyways, all that housekeeping out the way. Today, wanted to talk more about
Angie. I spoke to Angie the other day, by the way. She's going to come on.
Angie is, she's dear to us. We had her on a long time ago.
Very sexy Dominican woman.
You got to be careful. You can't say that.
Why?
Because then the other girls are going to get jealous.
Oh, and intelligent. And my friend.
Yeah, say that
she
first.
Got a great personality.
Say the great personality and intelligence first.
I can't, because people are going to look at her and say, man, she's sexy. Then they'll see that she's
true.
intelligent.
Okay.
Right, Angie? She knows.
You know, we love you.
Yeah.
She's a lovely individual. We had her on our show a couple years ago. And, very smart, very successful.
Great mom.
Great mom, for sure. So, anyways, no, we're not talking about Angie today. We're talking about getting, you got all excited, now he's disappointed. Really diving deep into the psychology of, in a lot of ways, and I always find this interesting whenever I think about you and your story, is how you're able to justify what you did, and also really now on the day-to-day, like, live with yourself. And I love you, but even for people that are new or that don't know our dynamic, like, it's understandable why some people would have a lot of reservations about you, right? Or they would say that, how could this guy live with himself? How could he be in front of a camera right now? How could he do any of this? And I think I have my answers for it, but I want to spend today really kind of going into that, and how you're able, and not just because of the work that you do with kids, but how you're able to justify what you did.
I don't know if you can. Listen, I was very aggressive guy since I'm a kid. 5 years old, Rich Haven, right? It was a baseball league.
Yeah.
I was in a farm team, as a 5-year-old. After the parade, you'd go out, you get boosters, and you have to sell them, right? Since I'm 5, I would
Not
win.
COVID boosters.
I'd win every year selling them, because I wanted to be number one. I wanted the prize. I wanted to be the winner.
You didn't like that joke? The not COVID boosters?
Oh, not COVID. I didn't hear you.
Just because I know you're a big COVID guy. Sorry, go ahead.
Not COVID boosters. And so I was always wanted to be on top and win. It was a drive. So it's no different than now. I want to be able to come back from what I did and overcome it.
Yeah, but what would your metric be? How do you measure if you overcame it?
By the people I'm helping. And you can't overcome things by just making yourself successful.
Is there anything that you can't live with yourself with on a daily basis of a crime that you committed? That you like really like, man, I really should not have done that. It's okay if you say no.
I don't think it's one crime. I think it's some of the things like I've talked about this before. The Keegan brothers, they lived around the corner from me, and they were nice kids. I mean, they were wild too. They weren't innocent kids. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they hurt guys too. They did some things, but overall, they were just regular neighborhood kids. They were friendly with me, and I baseball batted one over Joe O'Kane, who I spoke about, who got killed in prison in Keene prison and Kane prison, and he wasn't a nice guy. So those things bother me, that I made some bad decisions, and I try to reach out to them, and whatever, they don't accept it, and I get it, and it's, you're going back 20 years, 30 years, but still, it still bothers me, because I'm like, man, I made some poor choices sometimes.
What do you think is the worst choice you ever made? Other than like joining the mob?
I was just going to say, that's got to be the worst choice. Staying in the street, is the worst choice.
When did you actually feel like that was a bad choice?
Probably right after Gotti Sr. went to prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that soon.
How old are you then? When did he go?
By then, he went in 91, 90, end of 90, 91.
So you're like what?
So then I'm about 26 or something like that.
Is that, when did he die?
28. No, he died in the 2000, I think 2003 or something, or 1 or something like that.
So that was the first time he went in? Or he...
Oh, no, I was in before.
No, him.
No, he was in prior to that. And he was in the 70s. He was
Did
away.
he ever do any like long time?
No, nothing serious until the life sentence, and he died.
Right.
So he cheated him out of that too. So
Yeah.
he didn't really do much, because he died in about...
How many years
He went in
total?
91, about 10 years he did there, and before that he did 3 in Lewisburg, and before that he did little things, a couple months, and nothing serious.
So it was when he went in 91 that you felt like, oh, this was a mistake.
Well, you started to see because you're getting older, violent, doing a lot of work, meaning violence. And I'm starting to see most of the guys weak, not earners, not intelligent, sellouts. You start seeing all the real thing about the life.
Yeah.
They're just not real friends. It's about a dollar bill. It's about guys strapping on to you, hanging on to you, because they need you for the muscle. They need you for money. They're not intelligent to make their own. And then I'm like, where am I in this world? And then you start seeing the nepotism and different things that are going on, and you start waking up and saying, man, this was a bad choice. But there's no turning back. You're in it.
Yeah, it's what do you think when you realize like there's no turning back?
In a Bronx Tale, there was a line. It says, what a waste of talent. There's nothing like a waste of talent. And I was talented. You look back, and it's not me saying it in in a bragging way. It's just I was talented. I was able to overcome things and do things that others couldn't do. I was aggressive. So, I'd get on a bicycle. I said this when I was a kid, and I wasn't coordinated well. And I'd work at it, and I'd become very good at it. Boxing, same thing. I'd get in a ring, I'd get hit a lot, and just kept coming forward. And then I learned to move, and I learned to dance good and to, develop. I was a slow beginner, but I always developed. So when I I made this choice, and I'm like, why didn't I do something that was good?
Right.
And whatever, become a lawyer, politician, even though that's not good. They're worse than gangs. There's a lot of them. But you know what I mean. It's something that's respected in a good way.
Did you ever have an answer to that?
I'm the hardest judge of myself, myself than anybody else.
Did you ever tell yourself like, damn, I'm a scumbag?
Of course.
When do you think the first time you ever told yourself that you were a scumbag was?
The last time was about an hour ago.
What about the first time?
Probably the first time I hit somebody with a bat when I was for George Gaddy when I was a kid. I felt guilty, even though like I did it. I wanted to do it, but I remember when that guy opened the door, he thought I was just a. Remember I was talking about on the other show about a young guy, and George sent me to do it.
Right.
And I could have brought somebody with me. I didn't. And he opened the door and he was cocky because he seen it was me and he didn't realize what I was going to do. And I just batted away for a while because he owed George money. And then afterwards I left and I'm like, man, because he was screaming. The guy was screaming and he had no real mercy. And I'm just like, well, you know. And then you realize you just prostituted yourself out for a couple of bucks. And then that never stopped. You know, you just kept doing it because it's, you know.
Do you feel like in a lot of ways, like you, for lack of a better word, like you broke the seal, so then once you were in, it was like, once you got over that and you already felt like a scumbag, you're like, I already feel like this, might as well just keep going.
Yeah, you keep, and you're buying into the fact that you're getting popular and
Money and
you're being feared and everybody's talking about you and money. And that's it, money. And you learn to ignore those things and to move on. And when you first go out and you buy yourself a new Lincoln in those days, and then a new Caddy, and then a Corvette convertible, and then an apartment, then another apartment, and, you know, you just, now you're in. And you're like, okay, not only can you not live without the money, but your bills need that money because you're living to an excess of and no matter how much you're making, you keep going for more.
Right. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Well, people wonder, like you see ball players making millions and later on they're broke. People are like, how can they be broke? They made millions because they're living way above and spending. You don't buy a pair of shoes for $100 anymore. You're spending $500, $1,000. I used to buy those Maglias that O.J. Simpson used to wear. I used to buy those back in the day. And I don't remember what they were back then, but they were up there. They were like $400 a pair. You know.
Yeah, it's a weird one too. I think when I think about your situation too, I think it's interesting because if you look at like the life arc, you did like the opposite. You did like the opposite American dream. You went from like the highest high to the complete to coming back down and needing to work like a normal human, and that's almost harder too, especially when you have ego. You know, because like at that point in time, you're thinking you're the shit. You know, and
well, everybody convinces you are.
Yeah.
People in public, they see you, and you got to remember, I went from having an estate that's worth millions with baseball cages and boxing rings and gyms to, you know, lakes. And then I lived in a Brazil penitentiary, literally in the basement, on the floor, in cement full of shit, you know, from all the piping. You're going to the bathroom in the ground, not in a toilet. And then you're coming home and taking off doors to a closet and you're living in a walk-in closet on a cot. Imagine that transition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one.
You're almost saying to yourself, I'd rather go back to jail.
Yeah, because you at least know.
You're saying, where do I start again?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I think that's got to be the hardest question that a lot of people that have been to jail, and even on my own show when I had the other day, the Fire Festival guy I was telling you about a little bit on the phone, he owes $26 million in restitution. He's 31 years old.
Oh, you told me about him.
Yeah, the Fire Festival.
Yes.
Guy. And when I'm talking to him, it's like, I think even for him, and he has, honestly, credit to him, he's got a good outlook on it, where it's almost like, if I were him, I'd be like, where do I even start? $26 million. That's like, you got to go, like, if you're looking at like a number line, you got to go, you're starting at negative 26 to get back to zero. And then it's like, then you have money to yourself.
But here's the thing. If he's anything like me, which he is because he made money, you challenge yourself And that challenge actually pushes you even harder
Right.
to be successful again.
And I think too, it's like, look, if you're looking at like the odds of him ever paying back $26 million total, pretty low, right? Unless you hit a big success. But I think what's interesting about him and you, and that's why honestly I kind of want you guys to meet, which is, it'll be funny when you do, is that I think now he has such an appreciation for life, and that, you know, he might, I hate to say it like this, he might die still paying back that restitution, right? Which is probably likely. But I think that he now appreciates living humbly and like living again. You know what I mean? And I think that that's, if there's any silver lining or any win you can get in life, it's that.
Well, you're going to humble yourself. Like when I came home, I started driving a guy around. I was his driver, making $1,000 a week as his driver, getting up at 5 in the morning, getting home at 5 in the afternoon, opening doors, and you say to yourself, oh,
Yeah.
you know, you want to live, you got to do something. Then I went from that to cleaning apartments. Well, not cleaning them myself, but managing and putting guys that left, guys, he had about 200 units. So I'd oversee that. And then I went from that to construction sites to starting to be successful again. And I think that's what a lot of people see in me now. I mean, you got people that look at me because of my past and, you know, they like that world or whatever, you know. But that's not what I ask people to look at. I came from nothing. I became very successful. I lost everything, and I became successful again. So I think it's the drive and doing it the right way this time is the motivation that I talk to people about.
But how do you, on a personal level, calculate, like, what's the equation in your mind of money to freedom, like, ratio, right? Because, like, now, say, I don't know, I'm just throwing out arbitrary numbers. Say you make $5,000 a month, right? But you're free and you don't have the stresses, you don't have the stresses of the life that you had before. Back in the day, you were making $50,000 a month. Say, I mean, I know it's more, but whatever, right? Is there any dollar figure that makes any of it worth it then or worth it now? If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense because this is like me putting a gun on the table, putting a bullet in it, Russian roulette, spin it, tell the guy, here, put that to your head, and I'll give you $10 million. And if it doesn't go off, you're good. Here's $10 million. And if it does go off, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is anybody going to say that $10 million is worth
I have a bullet in there.
that bullet? It's just not. And, you know, and I'll tell you what'll happen. For everybody that puts that gun to his head, they're going to end up dead, right? And wake them up, if we could, like in the movies, or when they get another chance, and say, now that you're dead, would you ever do that again?
Yeah.
And they're all going to say no, of course, because they died.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is you never get to wake them up. And the same thing with the guys that are going to jails. It's very easy for somebody to say, I'll do that 10 years. I'll do that 12 years. I've heard guys say it all day because they only got 2 or 3 years. And I'm saying only, and it's not only. So the people that went to jail for a year or 2 years, it's a year out of your life. It's a lot.
Right.
But when you do 2 or 3 and you go, I can do the 15 or 20, you don't know that because you didn't do it yet.
Right.
It's easy to say that from a warm seat.
Yeah.
Or it's easy to say that from, you know, you're on the street and you're hustling and I don't care until it comes down to it. And then put the rest of the factors in. I don't know how many people I know that said, oh, I'll do the 5. They got in trouble. But they didn't know they were going to get hit with another case during that 5. So you're taking the plea for the 5 or you're fighting it, and here comes the next case. Because all those friends, your friends, are giving information against you. So now it's not 5 anymore. You got the 5, and now they're hitting you with another one. Let's see what you're made of now.
Yeah.
And then the guys that do 15 or 20, they come home, and people think, well, this guy's a stand-up guy. He did 15 years. Oh, really? Let's see if he gets hit with another case if he wants to go back. Because I've seen a lot of that too. They don't want to go back anymore. And jail's a young man's game.
Really?
The old is difficult. You're old, you need medicines, you're sick, you're not that same guy anymore to handle the young guys. You don't get the same respect from the young guys. It's a young man's game. That's it. Anybody that's been to prison knows that. You know, the old heads are respected in different ways, but they're not running anything.
Is your biggest fear going back to jail?
I don't have a fear of that because I don't do anything that I would go back to jail for.
Right.
But if it was somebody in that position, I would say, unless you have you don't like yourself at all. This is what I always talk about. There's a lot of guys, I'll use the word not dislike, but hate. I hate them, right? But I don't hate them enough to hurt them or kill them because I love myself better.
Yeah.
So I tell this, you heard me say this plenty of times. Like yourself more than you hate somebody else. Because when you look in the mirror, say, I'm worth something.
Yeah.
So every time some idiot opens their mouth, my old self didn't care about myself, so I'd go kill that guy or hurt that guy. My new self says, I'm not stupid anymore. I care more about me than my ego, so you could talk all you want. I'm just going to enjoy my life.
When you were young, did you think you were going to be around when you were 60?
No.
You knew you were going to die at some point.
I didn't care. That's the part. Like, a lot of guys fake it.
Yeah.
And I always knew when guys are faking it by the way they did things with me. Like when I was in California, I told that. I was with a guy, Bob, who's still around, was a friend of mine, and another guy who was my aunt and uncle, got married, my uncle actually married a woman, became my aunt. Her nephew was with me, and we had a fight. The guy put a gun on me. I didn't care. I went after him. Pulled the trigger. Didn't go off. But what moron goes after a guy who has a gun on their face? My friend Mikey Merlo did it, and he got shot with a shotgun chasing the guy who had the shotgun. He had no gun, and he died. He blew his head off. And if Mike could ever take that back, he would, obviously. But when we don't have regard for our lives like we did when we were growing up, we do stupid things. I got regard for my life now.
Yeah, I think too what's interesting is like, it sounds like when you were young, you really always had to like prove yourself, or you felt like you did, which comes from a place of insecurity, right?
100%. I went to an MMA thing the other day in Philadelphia, and I was with Sam Morpesium, who was running for city council. Ex-pro fighter, tough, good father, does the right thing. He's all over the street helping kids. He's running for office. And he introduced me to some of his friends. All tough guys. Get in the ring, fight, and some really good fighters. But when you talk to them, they're so soft-spoken and gentlemen because they're secure with themselves. They're not criminals. They're fighters. They go out in the ring, they fight, they go home with their girlfriends. And if you look at some of them were big guys. Some of them weren't. But if you look at them, you'd say, well, he don't look like nothing. Mm-hmm. But the insecure guy's judging the guy that doesn't look like nothing. The guy that's been all over the street, somebody like myself in prisons, you never judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And don't think because a guy's humble and polite that he's not tough. But they're fighting in the ring for money. When you go out in the street, I can bring you 20 guys. Maybe you'll beat 18, and you're going to lose to 2. But what are you proving? You're in the street. Well, you ain't getting anything for that.
What point do you think that you, as a human, became less insecure? Was it jail?
Reality of life. Like anything else, you learn from experience. And I think as I seen true people in jail, on the street, through life, gentlemen, I meet women and men every day, right? And I changed my life. But I could tell sometimes when I meet them, the way they back off from me, they're intimidated. Because they say to themselves, oh, I'm not getting involved with this nut. Oh, he seems nice. But why do I need this guy near my life? I don't know him. What happens if a switch goes off? Other people see me with this guy. It's not a good thing. It depends on the individual. Like, I stay with the doctor, and he tells everybody, I don't care what he used to do. I know him now. for the last 6 years. And I judge him by how I know him now. So you're going to have people like him, and you're going to have people on the other side that say, well, I don't know this guy, I don't need this in my life, and I don't want him in my life. And it hurts, because even me, I don't like to tell people exactly about my past because they judge it. I'd rather, if they know about my movies and my books and my talks at schools, and they don't know exactly what it's about, they just know that I work with kids, that's fine. But when they hear the old stuff,
It bothers you?
Yeah, it bothers me because I don't want to tell them until they know me.
Mm.
When they know me, then they'll say, okay, I know the guy.
But in a lot of ways, like how, when you meet somebody new, how do you introduce yourself? Or if they're like, oh, what do you do?
But now I just tell them, I work with, I do some TV shows, and, I work with kids. But
when they ask you, like, why?
Well, if they ask me specifically, I usually say, documentaries, crime shows. Still don't say.
You just wait for them to figure it out.
Yeah, if they figure it out, if they don't. I mean, I'm always with my social media and cards, and, people will follow you, and then as soon as they find out it's you, they don't follow you, and then it hurts.
Yeah.
I can't say it doesn't, because you're just trying to be friendly and trying to, build up your social media for what you do for kids, and they prejudge you. A lot of people, everything about a lot of people is about money and finance. So through life, when I was younger, they would think they're better than you because they're financially up the ladder from you. Mm-hmm. And this is why I understand the inner city kids, because I know how they feel, because I felt that way. You feel like they think they're better because they're doing better than you financially. And that's not true. So we got to teach the kids, they ain't better than you because they got more money in their pocket. I used to have more money in my pocket than most executives.
Yeah.
I wasn't better than them. I was doing bad things.
But at that time, you thought you were better than them.
I did. Just like the kids from our neighborhood do. That's why they're all hustling to make money, because they want to feel better about themselves, but they're going about it the wrong way, like I did.
Is there any part of you that, do you feel embarrassed about what you did?
Yeah. If I'm with good people, everything. I bet I was a criminal. It's not nothing to be proud of. So I'm sitting at a table with some nice people, and they just see me and they don't know me. And they say, well, the guy dresses well. He carries himself well. He doesn't curse. I don't act like a dummy. And they're like, oh, he's a nice guy. And then if I walk away and somebody says, this guy used to do this and this and this, they're going to look at you different, even if they try not to. They don't know you, and they're like, I don't want this guy near me. Why would I want him near me? I'm sitting with respectable people. And, it's just part of it. I got to, and my answer to people is, if they ask me, is, well, I'm 15, 20 years removed from that.
Yeah.
This is, the last time I was in any kind of crime is in jail in Brazil because out of survival. And that was 2005, 6. And since then, I live a different life.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I think some of the embarrassment people can relate to, but a lot of it they can't. What do you think is the most relatable thing about you?
Human nature. I think everybody understands that you can have anybody like an O.J. Simpson that was a well-respected Heisman Trophy, pro ball player, movie actor, commercial, and all of a sudden, one thing happened in his life out of infatuation, love, whatever, and couldn't control himself, whether he did it or didn't do it. I mean, everybody has their opinion on that.
He did it.
I'm not going to say that. And I was such a big O.J. Simpson fan. But, seriously, it's such a terrible crime.
Hold on, pause. As a criminal, as a former criminal, he did it, 100%. It's obvious. I mean, it's obvious.
If the glove don't fit, you have to quit. So here's what I think. I don't believe he did that by himself. I never did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I never believe that.
What do you think? So, okay, in your eyes, as a former criminal who did things like this for a living, what do you think happened?
Somebody very close to him helped him. That's what I think.
Give me some specifics. Come on, now that we're here.
Well, because murder's never forgotten. So, and I hate to say call somebody or accuse somebody of that. Off the air, I'll tell you. Because if he had nothing to do with it, I shouldn't say that he did or even suggest it. Because it's a terrible thing to suggest. Because it's such a heinous crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Fuck.
I
tried, guys.
I tried. Respect it.
I tried.
I got to respect who I believe. I've always believed this in my heart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's
timeline's very difficult if you watch that case, and I used to watch it every day. And Furman, the cop, the detective, screwed up because he lied a lot, and he was racist. He can say anything he wants. Yeah. And I don't say that. You know that about a lot of people. If I don't believe they're racist, but I believed he was racist.
Yeah, interesting.
And jealous of OJ, which hurt also the case. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, I don't even think I've ever asked you that, like what your thoughts on the OJ.
I just watched the Murdoch case. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I believe he's guilty, right, from everything I watched. But honestly, he shouldn't have been convicted. There's no evidence. Just because he's a liar doesn't make him a killer.
Right.
There's no blood anywhere. There's nothing. If you really follow the evidential.
Do when you see cases like this, or even like, fuck, what's the other one that happened recently? Oh my God, you remember that guy in Idaho? Brian Kohlberger?
They killed the kids?
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, well, yeah. But do you ever like put your, I mean, and that's very different because those are like, I know people don't, there's not like one murder that's better than the other. That's like sick. It's not like Mafia where like someone's killing
I got
you.
big interest in these cases. Like when I watch
But do you think about them from a perspective of somebody who's, at least from an objective standpoint, you've committed similar acts? Not that you would ever, like, very, very different from many, many levels. But like, do you ever think about do you put yourself in those positions? Or even like a Ted Bundy or some of these notorious killers, you ever think about them from?
I think about the guy that was killing these kids, right? This is my true thinking. And I mean, a therapist, a psychologist would analyze this. And I think I wish I was there to shoot this guy in the head while he comes in to kill these kids. Yeah. Because they're so innocent. The problem with kids and girls, a lot of these girls are so young and so innocent, and they don't realize the way they look, their bodies. And guys that are sick, it's enticing. Yeah. So when they're just innocently putting pictures out, I'm really against this, the way they do in bikinis and turning around and this and that. There's so many guys that are nuts that you don't know if they, I don't know why he did this. If he was so infatuated with one of the girls, I know one of them were targeted, the rest get killed. But they don't realize they're drinking. They're just too innocent to understand this is how fast you can lose your life. Yeah. You got to be more.
It's hard though. Like, it's hard because
You remember the girl that got killed in Aruba with her classmates? I mean, it's years ago.
I remember.
And they killed the girl, and they I think it was 3 guys, but the one gets convicted of it.
Horrible stuff in between.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean the hard part, and I understand, like, because there's women out there that might be listening that are like, it's not I think it's a very valid argument. It's not a woman's responsibility to act or do a certain way because there's sick men out there, right? And I actually fully agree with that. Like, if a girl wants to post a photo of herself in a bikini, that's her prerogative.
But I'm actually completely opposite. I'm not in agreement with that. Not because it's her fault. It's for her safety, for herself, to protect herself.
Yeah, but
you can't stop sick people. And if you do that, you're exposing yourself, even though you're not wrong.
Right,
it doesn't. You know what? It doesn't matter who's wrong or right. It's your safety of your life.
That I agree. But I would make the argument that
they're 100% right. But the problem is, they're putting themselves in danger.
And this is interesting. Like, I agree that life it's a numbers game, right? So if you take certain risks, then you might open yourself up to other certain risks, right? Like, you might open yourself up to a probability of, even if it's a 1 in 10 million, and you do X, Y, or Z, and it now puts you at 1 in 1 million, there's still a risk associated. I think it's just, I understand your point, but I also understand, like, I don't know, man. Like, horrible things happen regardless.
Well, here's how I say it, and I want the girls to write in on this. There's so many beautiful women out in every country, every neighborhood, every city, and if you go on Instagram, for say, right? And you put in the magnifying when it takes you, and you see girl after girl dressed less and less, right? Doing videos. And they're doing things, bending over, whatever they're doing, right? And I understand they're proud of themselves, the way they look, their body.
And they
their
should
looks.
be.
And they should, 100%. They should be. But some of what they're losing, in my opinion, is you're beautiful, but show your personality and your intelligence also.
But why can't they show both?
They can. I do agree they should. So I've talked to different girls that are, they're very big on Instagram and stuff. They write me and they talk about my page, or they ask about theirs, and they ask advice, and go, because you're in that genre. And I write them back the same thing. I understand you're making money. I understand you're getting attention, and this is how you're earning money from your looks, and that's great. There's a lot of beautiful models, and that's how they make a great living. But now that you have people's attention, use your intelligence
I see.
for positive whatever else, whether it's to push child safety, it's to push don't use drugs.
No, that I agree. That I wholeheartedly agree. I just think, like, if we're talking about specific cases where individuals, like the guy in Idaho or even like Ted Bundy back, like there's sick individuals, and I don't think that whether or not somebody posts a bikini picture or whatever is making a difference, because those sick individuals that commit heinous acts of violence, that I think really comes down, sometimes it's literally random, right? And it's like, it has nothing to do with social media most times, and it's like, freak accidents happen in life, and they're tragic.
Accidents, and my dad told me this as a kid, are accidents, but you can bring those numbers up or down.
Right.
So here's the naive part. I was with a couple of friends. I'm always in Princeton. So I'm with a couple of friends who are in Princeton, and we're walking, and there's a beautiful park there. And a girl goes in the park. This is in the fall last year, around 4:30. And she's jogging through the woods, right? It's a path. And the time she's going to come out, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to stop her. So she's almost at the end of the path coming back. And I stopped her. She was getting in her car, and I said, "Hey, can I tell you something?" Now, she knew I was with a group of people, so she said, "Yeah." And I said, "This is a beautiful area, right? I'm here for years. You think it's safe, but it only takes one guy to wait in the woods for you.
That I agree with.
You're by yourself. You're tired. I don't care what kind of shape you're in, because you're running this now, 6-7 miles, whatever you were running, because it's a long run through the path. And she was running a good hour, so that's got to be about 5 miles, right? A guy hits her over the head with something, drags her in the woods, rapes her, kills her.
All the bad stuff.
You can't go in the woods, even though you're exercising.
And it's a sad truth, right?
Right. And the problem is people don't want the sad truth. They want to say, well, I can, because I should be able to. I should be able to dress in a bikini. You're right.
Yeah.
But your safety is the other point of this.
That I agree with.
So the same, I think the same in Idaho, right? In
I
a
don't know
perfect
enough
world,
about that, to be honest.
well, not because the guy's nuts. In a perfect world, the door's open, right? He went through a glass door through one of the sliding doors, whatever he did. But it's not a perfect world. You got to unfortunately lock doors. You got to stay together when you're girls and you're out drinking and one's really drunk. It just happened to a girl recently.
No, I know,
See the girl that got killed?
I feel bad because women already go through enough. So the fact that they then have to, watch where they go or watch out at night. But it's the truth, right? It's like the same way that, like, for my friends that are girls or whatever it is, and you have to unfortunately take sometimes measures. I'll never let one of my girlfriends go, I'll always drive her back, even if I have to take an extra 30 minutes, right? Or I make sure that she walks in. There's small little things that you have to do, and that's just unfortunately how
guys
it is.
do it too.
Guys do it too.
They
Exactly.
take a wad of money, they go somewhere, and and they're, whatever, they want to show off, or it's their money, they can do what they want. They want to get girls, they want to show off in front of friends, they're successful, whether in the rap game, whatever you're doing. And you're showing that money. I don't know how many rappers got killed now because people are jealous.
I know.
So unfortunately, it is your money, it is your jewelry, it is this. But if you want to risk your life and show it, it's not worth the risk of your life, because you want to. I'm a big guy. I listen. I think you know this. Pop Smoke, right?
Yeah.
I used to like him a lot.
I love
right?
Pop Smoke.
Young guy, successful. He had the whole world,
I know.
and
World of talent.
and he lost his life. So what is it worth that, and I heard different people say, oh, he went out like a man. I mean, it's easy for you to say because it's not your life. What like a man? There is no dignity of getting killed at a young age and full of money and talent. And it ain't even the money. It's his life. Forget the money.
Yeah.
So I try to be, with good advice to people because I know the street. I tell people all the time, you want to walk at 3 o'clock in the morning by yourself? You could do it 100 times, probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But do it 101 times and it happens. So why are you doing that? Get in an Uber.
What point did you understand the value of like life?
I understood the value of life when I say to you, and you've heard me say this, Frankie Berg's dead, Angelo Costelli's dead, Fat Angelo's dead, the Pittman brothers are dead, Joe Kane's dead, right? Angelo Costelli's dead. I could go Mikey Merlo's dead, Billy Stream, and I go through names like this: dead, killed, OD'd, my daughter's dead from a different reason, from being murdered from fentanyl. Death after death after death. So in life, it goes like this. You walk out of your house and you drive 100 miles an hour, you can lose your life. So as a kid, we don't think. As I got older and I've been around so much death, I try to give good advice. If you go 100, and if you do it real quick with math, or you go 70 and you drive an hour, you're probably going to get there 3.5 minutes sooner. So why are you driving 100?
Yeah.
I know, because you're a kid, you don't think. That's why. And the thrill and all that.
And that 3.5 minutes ain't worth it.
3.5 minutes you just lost your life for.
Yeah.
Or you might take somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Like I tell my kids or my family, forget about ourselves. How about another car?
Yeah,
God forbid a lady's driving with her children. And, it's one thing I killed gangsters and I can't live with that. But it's another thing by mistake killing
No.
an innocent person, and especially a child.
Yeah, because that I don't think you live with.
Yeah. No, you're not going to live well with that at all.
Well, another... I'm really loving these shows.
Yeah, I like the subject of really, because I understand death more than anybody. In prisons, on the street, I understand.
Well,
and that's why I brought up, especially with females, because I've seen and I've known people that lost their kids. And it was a case a couple of years back in Howard Beach with a fireman that used to jog with his daughter, and his daughter was raped and killed. And it's such a terrible thing. Beautiful girl just lost her life because she was exercising.
Yeah.
And people say, well, what'd she do wrong? She didn't do anything wrong. It's not her. It's crazy people.
Yeah.
It's, that she's a beautiful girl wearing a short shorts and a half shirt. And
she's trying to
there's
work
nothing
out.
wrong with anybody looking at her for her beauty because it's a positive. But the nutty people aren't going to look for the positives. They're looking to become a predator.
Yeah.
And there's too many of them.
Yeah. I think, and this is what I think people are enjoying about the show is, I think there's a lot of philosophical and psychological debates that at the end of the day, you and I agree on most things. I think that what's cool about this show is we can agree, but the way that we come at that agreement is from different angles, right? My generation, and especially like this new tech age, like I understand it well. You're from a different generation. And, I hope that people can see the different philosophies that are similar but different, right? And yeah, I think it's... I
love hearing your perspective because I know your perspective is my kids' perspective and all their friends. And I say this all the time. When I'm talking to somebody, a lot of these people are going to relate. They're not going to relate to what I have to say because they're not from where I came from. But they're going to relate to where you come from. And the good thing about us is it's like a father-son relationship where I really, people think somebody's older, so he's got to be wiser because of experience. That's not true. I interviewed a guy and he was talking about his son who's I think they got to show up today, actually, from a couple of weeks ago. And he says, I've apologized to my son numerous occasions, which was really nice of him to say because just because you're older or you're his father, my son Johnny and Matt, when I talk to them, or my son Jimmy, I'm wrong a lot of times. And then they say, Dad, and they explain, I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, so the truth is, I don't have the perspective of your generation. And a lot of things that you say to me makes me think about, you know what, even though I say something and I agree with you, maybe I'm not saying it where they understand.
And that's the part that I try to get people to understand, and that I think, and that's why I know that, and that's why you and I connect on a fundamental level, is because the values and the morals are all the same, right? It's just sometimes the way that we speak is different, but that's okay. Like that's why people like listening to us, you know, banter and have our dynamic, is because you're taking one individual with one life and another individual with another life, completely different paths, different everything, and having conversation. I think that's why people like this show. But that's all for today on this one.
Quick hello to Adam Esposito and you guys, and Charlie and Steve, you guys, and these are guys also that help me stay on par, on course, what we do with our show too.
Good. Big shout out to those individuals. Thank you so much for watching. If you didn't hear the beginning, make sure you subscribe, like all that good stuff. We're going to be pushing out content a lot. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. We're back. We're better than ever. And we'll see you guys next time.